fascination with dinosaurs started very, very early on with me.
I used to enjoy playing for hours with the few Dino Riders I had.
You got that balance of dinosaurs, laser guns, little figures.
The T-Rex. That was one of the coolest toys I'd ever seen.
The packaging, absolutely fantastic.
It was kind of everything that we love about toys rolled into one thing.
It has and always will be my favorite toy line that ever came out.
During the 80s, one of the biggest common tropes that was across several things is just dinosaurs in general.
Dinosaurs are one of those things that are just sort of universally loved.
I remember being at primary school / elementary school and going to the school library, and the dinosaur books were the first books that I would run to and get out of the library.
And for every age, you had little play school toys of dinosaurs, like in the Definitely Dinosaurs era. You had cartoons everywhere. Denver the Last Dino, Dino Saucers.
And I think it's non-gender specific. You don't have to be a certain kind of kid to love dinosaurs. Anything that has dinosaurs seems like a bit of a no-brainer as far as toys go and as far as movies and television shows.
So 1988 was a big year. Things were shifting. It was becoming the end of a decade. He-Man was pretty much done at this point.
For me, I started to lose interest. The Transformers had already peaked.
Something needed to rise up and take that spot.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles launched in 1988. You had Cops and Crooks. Every kid had a ton of Lego.
There were a lot of toy companies in terms of what they could produce for action figures.
It was an absolute bumper crop of lines that you could choose from. The toy aisles, it was chock-a-block full of some of the most beloved toys in history, really.
Yeah, a lot of different toy lines during that period. I noticed that my G.I. Joe collection got whittled down very quickly because all of my focus suddenly moved to Dino Riders. And for me, Dino Riders was definitely the standout in 1988.
And to bring Dino Riders into the world of toys, it wasn't one of the usual action figure companies that would do this. In fact, it was the company Tyco, who were more known for making completely different styles of toys, and they'd be the ones to bring Dino Riders into the market in 1988.
I didn't really necessarily, at the age of 6 or 7 or 8, realize who was making what. Whether it was, Tyco or Galoob or Kenner or whoever.
Always the big two stand out now in the modern day of Mattel and Hasbro. I didn't even remember Tyco being a toy company until much later in life.
Prior to Dino Riders, was not familiar with Tyco whatsoever. But having the VHS of Dino Riders was quite funny, actually. So in the VHS, they had a couple of episodes. But amongst the episodes, even on the VHS, they had toy commercials for Tyco products. So a lot of Tyco products before Dino Riders were things like slot car machines, a lot of vehicles, radio controlled cars and things like that.
I remember having one RC car that was probably Tyco as a kid.
Realizing that it was Tyco and realizing that, I had slot cars and RC cars that were Tyco. And then sort of that made so much more sense when I was like, oh wait, Dino Riders had all the mechanized walking functions as a result of Tyco being really into kind of motorized things. So it's kind of a fascinating thing that they did a dinosaur line, really.
The cartoon was definitely really a neat thing to see. So here you have the two factions fighting it out in space, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they go back in time.
Once they hit Earth, they have a very different approach to how they interact and use dinosaurs on prehistoric Earth.
The good guys in this story, the Valorians, they had these little box emitters that kind of did a telepathy that they were able to communicate with other beings.
So they use dinosaurs as friends, and they work together with dinosaurs.
Which works really well when you're going against the Rulons, who are clearly an empire of all these different very frightening species from everywhere. You have hammer-headed shark-type characters, you have snake-type characters, you have insect-type characters.
They use brain boxes to basically brainwash their dinosaurs to work for them, basically like slaves.
And, the dinosaurs effectively lose their own will.
Questar is the leader of the Valorians, and he has that classic look. So, he has the long blonde hair. So he's very much got that He-Man look to him, or even sort of a Duke look to him, from G.I. Joe. For the Rulons, the leader of the Rulons, you've got Krulos. Krulos is a frog-like creature who wears a red sort of space-looking spacesuit with a mask over top.
Krulos is obvious, you got this frog guy in a bubble, and then he, almost dries out several times, which is like just the weirdest. Oh, that's how you defeat him. You just take the bubble off and he dries out.
And he has his minions at his side. So, for example, Rasp, the snake character, he's always trying to look at ways of getting control of the Rulons and finding ways to get in on sort of Krulos' power there.
It's time I control the Rulon army.
A lot of similarities, I guess, to other series.
As far as the supporting cast goes, you've got a lot of other peoples. You've got Serena, you've got Youngstar. There's Turret, who is the tech jockey kind of guy.
I think Turret was probably my favorite. The nerdy science engineer guy was just sort of the most fun one to me.
Because when something breaks, he's got to be the one to fix it.
I love the Commandos because there was that sort of military aspect to it.
One of my favorite characters within this story is definitely Gunnar. He is this war-hardened veteran.
Personally, I was a fan of Youngstar and Lard. So they were the younger two guys, and they would get themselves into a bit of mischief. They would sort of run off into the jungle or into harm's way, basically. They would run across a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and so they would often be the guys that would need rescuing.
Even as a kid, I thought Lad was just always getting the Dino Riders into trouble. They were like, "Don't do this, Lad," and he was like, "I'm doing it anyway."
While we certainly can't go through every single character, there's still a few more that we can discuss here. Mind's Eye served as an elderly blind sage type of character who was also Serena's grandfather. There's also others such as Tag, as well as Tark, who additionally had a larger role in the short-lived comic series run by Marvel. Icon served as the Dino Rider statistician, and the Rulons also had others amongst their ranks, such as Croc. And the voice cast was, in some ways, a who's who of the Saturday morning cartoon era.
It's really cool, now looking back and seeing who was in it. It's all the voice actors that I love, from Transformers, Inspector Gadget, on and on and on. And then learning that Stephen Dorff is there as a kid. And you're kind of like, wait, Stephen Dorff? I looked that one up recently. I couldn't believe that it was Stephen Dorff.
Yes, some of us learned later on that eventual famous actor Stephen Dorff voiced the young character of Lad in one of his earliest roles. And quite notably, Frank Welker voiced Emperor Krulos, and he prominently voiced Megatron in the Transformers in a very similar tyrant type of leader role.
Attack!
He also voiced Rasp, even though as implied earlier that Rasp and Krulos' grudging relationship was similar to that of Megatron and Starscream. Peter Cullen, who of course is known for voicing Optimus Prime, took on the role of Gunnar.
Don't give up! We'll free you if it's the last thing I do!
And while you can hear a bit of Optimus Prime in Gunnar's voice, Gunnar's character in the cartoon is more similar to that of the Autobots' grizzled war veteran, Ironhide, who coincidentally was also voiced by Peter Cullen. Dan Gilvezan, who had voiced Bumblebee for the Transformers cartoon, now voiced Questar, so it was cool seeing the role reversal of Peter Cullen as a more supporting character, while Gilvezan was put into the lead role. Now, we know that the cartoon was used to help sell the toy line, but the show also did have a significant plot device for the heroes and villains to fight over.
The Rulons are trying to get from the Valorians the step crystal, which basically gives them power to travel in time.
It's the whole MacGuffin of everything for this series. Now you have Krulos extremely angry at Questar for having pulled them back in time, separating him from his empire, and now it's more important than ever that he get a hold of the step crystal.
The crystal, that's the premise of every episode. It's purely episodic, and it's, the Rulons trying to get the crystal from the Dino Riders with some scheme that probably involves stampeding dinosaurs, and then they don't get the crystal, and then that's the end of the episode.
It was a very short-lived cartoon series, only 14 episodes in total.
I'm of two minds. I love it from the nostalgia of it. I absolutely loved it as a kid, but it's so simple. It's so basic. You have the good guys versus the bad guys. You have the humans versus the kind of monsters, but it really worked.
Production of the cartoon was handled by Marvel as well as Tyco and various animation studios. While the majority of episodes aired in 1988, several went to VHS. Most notably, the first episode was released on VHS in 1987, ahead of the rest of the series, and much later on in 1990, the standalone 14th episode was sent directly to VHS to help promote their Ice Age series of toys. While we know historically that dinosaurs didn't all live in the same era, the Dino Riders cartoon and toy line seemed to mix dinosaurs from all the key eras into one storyline, be it from the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods, though that didn't seem to deter young minds from simply enjoying their toys.
The fact that they used dinosaurs from all sorts of different periods it made no difference to me whatsoever as an 8-year-old playing with the toys or watching the cartoon series on TV. It's an interesting thing to read about, but it definitely didn't take away from the enjoyment of Dino Riders. And to be honest, I don't think probably many kids would have picked up on that.
And I still don't know which period most dinosaurs are actually from. So when I was watching Dino Riders as a kid, I didn't know that dinosaurs didn't all exist at the same time. I don't think it detracts in any way.
In terms of the toys, the dinosaurs themselves are absolutely beautiful. The molding, the coloring.
I used to enjoy playing for hours with the few Dino Riders I had. And most of the time, there was a lot of it where I just spent playing with the dinosaurs themselves, not even so much all of the armor. As a kid, I had a couple of them. I had Deinonychus, I had the Dimetrodon, and these were all really cool toys. But I do remember loving to play with my Deinonychus so much. I remember breaking off his tail, which is a very common problem. It wasn't just me. But they were so much fun. They were well-loved toys.
I had a handful. I had, mostly the smaller ones. But my friend who lived sort of one street over had all of them. And so if I needed my Dino Riders fix, I'd pop over there and play with his.
I remember one of my neighbors got the Triceratops, and it was one of the Dino Riders which was, battery operated. And you're going to my neighbor's place and him putting the Triceratops on the dining room table, pressing the on button and watching this Dino Rider come to life and walking across the dining room table it just blew my mind.
So when it comes down to it, one of the coolest toys ever was the T-Rex, the King Tyrant dinosaur, and its electronic features. That was one of the coolest toys I'd ever seen. Second favorite is gotta be the Diplodocus, or as they call it in the show, I believe, Diplodocus. Just this giant long-necked dinosaur that was more of a battle station than just, like a cool ride.
The Diplodocus, the Triceratops, obviously the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the Torosaurus all were battery operated from the first series.
I still remember the sprue that we had to break all the weapons and different accessories off of for the pilots to have. I couldn't even remember which pilots I had until looking at a checklist at DinoRidersWorld.com much later in life, where I was like, that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, basically Dino Riders had 4 series in total. The first and second series, there were quite a lot of dinosaurs. The third series was very, very limited, and those Series 3 Dino Riders figures in there are extremely expensive and very difficult to find on the market. So they are on a lot of collectors' bucket lists.
I think the appeal of the toys then and now was that you got that balance of dinosaurs, laser guns, little figures, tiny accessories, and things that shot and motorized walking functions, and it was kind of everything that we love about toys rolled into one thing. Not to mention that the dinosaur sculpts were fantastic for the time.
Very, very realistic looking figures. So even if I look now and if I compare the Dino Riders dinosaurs to, say, the Jurassic Park Kenner dinosaurs, for me, the Dino Riders dinosaurs blow the Jurassic Park dinosaurs out of the park. And then Series 4 jumped into the Ice Age. So that played with the final episode of the cartoon series where they fixed the step crystal, and again, a bit of a mistake was made and they moved into the Ice Age. So they brought out, I think there were 4 Ice Age figures brought out, I think in 1990 as well, for the final series of Dino Riders.
So the Ice Age portion of it, one of the coolest ever that I still remember seeing and always wanted it. The Smilodon, the saber-toothed tiger. I loved seeing that as a kid.
The Ice Age is fun. I mean, I love saber-toothed tigers. I love woolly mammoths. There is a woolly mammoth at the museum in Victoria that I used to always, every time we would go to Victoria, I would always want to go and see the woolly mammoth.
So one of the biggest things when it comes down to Dino Riders, it influenced the toy world in a major way that inspired many future toys. At the time that Dino Riders came out, their envisioning of dinosaurs in plastic form was considered to be the most scientifically accurate.
The Smithsonian Institute actually asked Tyco if they could use the Dino Riders dinosaurs molds
to release their own dinosaur line. And if I remember correctly, they even started going into those Ice Age toys as well. They just released them without the riders.
If you've got an institute like that who live and breathe dinosaurs, if they're asking you if they can use the toy company's dinosaurs, for their products, you've got a good looking dinosaur there.
Its influence goes on in Cadillacs and dinosaurs, where they also reused a lot of the molds from the Dino Rider toys at the time.
You want to talk about anachronistic? You've got Cadillacs from like the 1960s with dinosaurs, and both of them are in the future.
The look of the T-Rex was so iconic that it inspired Pixar to use that shape, that form of the way the T-Rex stood, the way the T-Rex moved, in its Rex in the movie Toy Story. They look almost exactly the same. Except, of course, Rex has a much gentler nature than the tyrant that the T-Rex was in Dino Riders.
I will say Rex is my favorite Toy Story character. Probably, again, because of the association with Dino Riders. The legacy of Dino Riders is that there are still a lot of hardcore Dino Riders fans out there.
I know that Mattel bought Tyco and technically owns Dino Riders.
They brought out a special mini pack a few years back with very, sort of miniature figures, which didn't quite fill the gap for us, really.
The influence and fandom surrounding Dino Riders can be felt well within the modern era, in a time when fellow fans have become toy creators, thus paving the way for spiritual successors to return in the adult-aged collector's market.
A couple of fans at Creative Beast Studios decided to take hold and put out their much inspired by Dino Riders toy line, Cyberzoic.
It got me because it's basically Dino Riders for grown-ups.
And while we have spent quite a bit of time here reminiscing about toy memories, there was at times a more humorous twist associated with dinosaurs in pop culture history.
You remember that Was Not Was song, Walk the Dinosaur?
Yes.
I have used that song a couple of times when I've posted Dino Riders photos on Instagram.
There were many times as a kid where I did try to walk around like a dinosaur.
So I actually looked up the lyrics for it recently, and I always thought it was "Everybody wants a dinosaur." Like, I thought that was the main chorus.
You say that again. Everybody
wants a dinosaur. You know how everybody has songs where they're like, they sing along, but they have no idea what the lyrics are? Everybody wants a dinosaur. It makes perfect sense.
I want a dinosaur.
Dino Riders overall remains one of the toy lines that never quite hit its full potential. Yes, there were 4 series worth of toys, and that's plenty if you consider it that way. But really only the first 2 waves were substantial, with the 3rd series and concluding Ice Age series having only a small handful of offerings. The cartoon was also short-lived, as was the eventual 3-issue run of Dino Riders that was published by Marvel Comics in 1989. We've done our best to cover the series here, though I'm aware we weren't able to cover every single release. In modern times, the love of Dino Riders can be relived by visiting such websites as the aforementioned DinoRidersWorld.com, and plenty of research can be done to learn about international releases such as slight variations and different box designs in the Japanese market, as well as a ton of assorted memorabilia. Our friends might even have their own custom memorabilia to pay tribute to Dino Riders in their own way. As highlighted here, Dino Riders seems to be a toy line whose impact after its cancellation feels larger and more long-lasting compared to when it was first available as a toy purchasing option for parents to buy for their kids back in 1988. And when it all comes down to it, the love of dinosaurs, the fictional, prehistoric setting pitting heroes and villains battling against one another, combined with sci-fi technology, is something that's just easy to appreciate. It has become a much beloved part of toy history. And hopefully, retrospectives such as these can not only revitalize memories for those who lived through this era of toys, but also bring focus for new collectors to learn about such a timeless and amazing, albeit underrated franchise.
Dinosaurs are something that we don't sort of lose an interest in.
As a young kid, the fascination with dinosaurs started very, very early on with me.
When it comes down to it with dinosaurs, the bigger the badder.
It's just sad that Dino Riders was such a short run.
To me, it still surprises me that, Dino Riders still doesn't get talked as much as it should, I don't think.
It almost transcends nostalgia.
Dino Riders definitely ranks within my top 5 favorite toy lines of the 80s.
It has and always will be my favorite toy line that ever came out.
It was well loved by many young kids such as myself.
In a weird way, I think Dino Riders is almost like still with us.
And if you happen to like this video, don't go anywhere just yet. I'm going to put another toy history topic that you can click on right over here, or to choose your own toy history topic from an existing playlist, you can click on this playlist right over here. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.